last album review of the week, we have Haunted Pond by Sun Bear Hum. It's 10 songs, about 35, almost 36 minutes long. And this is a 10 album debut project from Sun Bear Hum, who you may or may not know as Audioface, previous Audioface guest Oliver and his indie band. He was on the Avalanche's bonus episode and helped us kind of go through the Avalanche's discography, how they use plunderphonics and taking songs from a bunch of other genres and putting them together and to create new music. That is a previous Audioface episode, so check that out on YouTube or in the Syndicate 23 archives for that if you become a member at join.syndicate23.co. God, I plug a lot of things. And
getting professional at this, I see.
It's autopilot at this point. But in this record, you have 10 really solid, I guess, like shoegaze style indie tracks that build upon the very ethereal sounding things from their Opalescent EP from 2019 that we talked about a little bit in that Avalanches episode as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually like this record for a few reasons. One, we did have our State of Indie 2022 conversation on our Rex Orange County review of Who Cares? Great title for a record. And this is a different version of indie. This is the indie I like, the more shoegazy like early dive style of indie. But within this, I actually really like what they've done with this record because they've took that quintessential indie sound from the early 2010s, even like the early like all the way to the late 10s, early 2020s. But they added a little bit of floof to it. They added a little bit of nuance to it. They had some experimentation towards like the middle of the record and everything too, but more on that in a little bit because I want to go through every song as I normally do. But kind of just giving my overall thoughts before I jump in. But I was impressed with it because there's some stuff in here that I really liked, and especially from different indie groups, because I feel like we've been, again, kind of going more on that conversation we had last week. I feel like we've been just stuck in this little indie hole of stuff sounding so similar. It's like, okay, like what are we going to get now with this? And it's like, oh, okay, this is the quintessential indie where it's taking some sounds that you've heard, taking some ideas, but then making it your own and then adding on top of that and trying different stuff within that too. There are a few criticisms I have of it, but we'll get on to that in a little bit. But anyway, so opens up with, let me see if I can get the title.
My Fortune. I have it in front of me. Yeah, and we got this on old Bandcamp Aruni because it's currently not streaming on Spotify because it's real indie, goddammit.
Because this is how you know it's real indie right here. My Fortune. Great opening track. It kind of sets the theme for it. It's short, sweet, to the point. It's good. It gets you sucked into the record, and you know what you're gonna get with it on that track. Where I really started to like it was the second track, Muses. Absolutely love that track. It is like a beautiful indie shoegazy track, where it's just like the way the guitars, everything kind of pop up. It reminds me of some slow dive and stuff that you've got maybe in the 90s and everything, but making it modernized and whatnot. The vocals are really layered, but they're also stepped back too in the way that they're done. And it's a really good, really, really good second track. And that's where I was like, okay, I'm impressed with this. Let's see what the rest of this record's got. Third track, similar too, but it's a little bit slowed down for it, and it's a little bit longer too. Also, that is something that I did much appreciate from this record too, is you had some shorter songs and you had some longer songs, but the longer songs needed to be there so that way it wasn't just like cut and paste, cut and paste, cut and paste, cut and paste. They needed to kind of break it between certain sounds and certain ideas that they had. And those longer songs also didn't feel that long either. Some of them, were 5 minutes or so, which I think this third track was like 5 and some change. Something were close to 6 minutes only. But it had little breaks and stuff between, so it made it that nice long indie track, which I do thoroughly enjoy, but we haven't been getting those very lately. And then the fourth song,
I really want. I'll stop on Orange. I'll stop on Orange Peel's only because that was the lead single, and you kind of got a lot to it there. But it being in the beginning, I really like all the elements it's hitting. I like that it's that longer track because the layering of the rhythm guitar and everything that's going into that really gets to play out and play through the rest of the song. I like the melody that the vocals do throughout the whole thing, and I like how that sort of layers on throughout the whole thing, throughout the last minute. I think it's a really, and it's a again, when I heard that as the lead single compared to Opalescent, which was their EP, which was full of kind of calmer, quieter, more ethereal tracks, this seems like one that people would sort of like get up to, almost sort of like dance to even. It shows real growth in like the band's sort of trajectory. And so I really liked hearing that as the lead single. But we were going on to number 4, you said?
Yeah, Next to Nothing, which is the next track. This is when you start to get some different ideas and stuff in the sound, where they add a bit more layers with the guitars. They add a bit more layers and with the drums and the vocals and everything too, and it slows it down to a little bit after. I lost my train of thought. Right after Orange Peels. So that's like a perfect way that they made this record. That's another thing I want to compliment is every track goes together well. Every track has an idea. Every track kind of gets you into the thick of it. Then you had some very interesting ideas with track 5 and then track 6 with Haunted Pond, which is this instrumental
All right,
experimental track.
track 5 and 6 are Cold Hands and Scattered Signal.
That's a Scattered Signal. That's the one I was talking about. 6.
Yeah, gotcha.
That's what I say, because he had 5 and then 6. 6 is Scattered Signal. Scattered Signal is this really cool track because it's just an instrumental track where it's this very euphoric, ethereal sounding, and it has a lot of different sounds and different electronic beats and everything in there too. And it's great that they put that in there because it breaks up kind of the monotony that you've gotten with the different sounds, and I love that. Like I would give this album, it's basically a blend of the 1975 with early dive. Like you kind of have the mix of those two, and this is what you kind of get with this record. And it's something that I really enjoy. The only thing I have maybe an issue with is by the end of the record, when you get towards down, like say maybe Always and Always, the last track and maybe a couple of tracks before that, I wanted a little bit more from the vocals. I wanted to be able to hear it a little bit more. It's one thing when you have it, maybe like the first half of the album or maybe a couple of tracks here or there where you have that little muffled sound and whatnot. But towards the end, it was getting to be like, I want a little bit more with that, just so it's a little bit more prevalent, because I think the vocals are fantastic and I wanted to be able to hear even more with that.
Yeah, I felt like in tracks like it was really fast. Like I felt like in tracks like Who Knows, that's why I wanted that part of the album to where the vocals kind of hit like a crescendo point even. But I thought like that was one of the really good tracks at the end. And then you get to this point at the end where the album kind of lands the plane, so to speak, really nicely, but the vocals don't sing the way they should. Like,
so you land the plane, right? But you don't wheelie it. Right, you like land it nice, but you touch down too close with the nose. You're like, all right, like it's decent landing, but you don't just like you don't even do, you could get fancy with it. You could do a slip landing, pop in. You could do one wheel like wheelie down, right wheel down, then nose wheel down. If you got tricycle gear landing.
I'm so sorry for however long you're going to be in flight school. This podcast is going to get insufferable for certain minutes.
I mean, this is my career, so for the rest of the podcast existence, and it has been for many years, as I am an aviation nerd. So welcome to Audioface Airlines. But yeah, because I thought exactly the same. I forgot about Who Knows until you said that. But Who Knows is great with the vocals. I really like that. But the last 3 tracks after that, it goes back to the earlier sound where it's more muffled with that vocals, and I wanted more from that. Just because I thought they were very good and I liked it, but I wanted to be able to have it to be more prevalent in every track, and even take some of the sounds that you had in Scattered Signal and implement those into more tracks too, for maybe the next project and whatnot. Like you have a lot of good ideas here, and I want to see what you can expand upon. But for an indie record, I think it's fantastic. Something that it feels refreshing in a way for indie. Because I've been stuck in this indie plateau for maybe the past 6-7 months, where I've been getting to be a little annoyed with it and very, very, very much left hanging. Where it's just I know I'm gonna get when I listen to indie record. Now with this, it's like, oh, okay, cool. This is more of the indie that I like. Try something fucking different, as we always say on Audioface, and yeah, good, very, very good. Impressed with it.
Yeah, definitely. I told to Oliver, like, even if I wasn't like a even if I didn't know him very well, I would still think that this album's very good. The only thing would just be like, it would be so hard to find an album like this because of how the fucking music industry is so messed up that it makes it hard to find things of quality that are new, that are good, because the algorithms aren't tuned to that threshold. They're tuned to how other people react to the songs themselves and not the music themselves. Maybe it's a deeper question on whether we should have computers deciding the quality of music, but I mean, hey, anything beats what we're doing right now.
Very true. Oliver, if this album was bad, I would shit on it, just letting you know. So, but this album was actually quite good, so I'm not going to shit on it, and I did very much enjoy it.
Yeah. He doesn't have the obligation of like being your friend, so like he would just be able to go in.
Exactly.
Yes.
So like, I know you listen to this podcast, so yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and try some more robot video game beats in the future. I'm interested to see what you could do with more of that.
Oh, I know Oliver loves him some sense, but let's give this a ranking. Arbitrary scale. We do arbitrary scales every week on Audioface because our review is our review, and if we gave it a number or a ranking system, you wouldn't have listened to the regular thing. So I'm going to give this. Guessing a friend's thoughts would be really funny. What are you going to give it?
I'm giving this dipping the hand with fingers stretched out in lac or red dye or flower water and striking the wet hand on the ground or on a wall, calling out, "What shall it be?" and showing the form required, elephants, horses, and etc.
I'm going to give this the yeah, I'm going to give this guessing at letters traced with the finger in the air or on a friend's back. Absolutely no family squares. Absolutely no Wheel of Fortune. Absolutely no pledging.
No pledging. No.
Okay.
No beer pong.